Welcome to Trek Trav. I am Trav. Today we're discussing Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 3, 17 seconds. This will contain spoilers. Let's start off with the Raffi storyline. It's really weird. I love seeing Worf being like a super action badass. I really enjoy seeing Raffi being a bit angry and a bit wacky. It's an interesting dichotomy because I think they're trying to play it as Raffi is kind of like how Worf used to be, and I like the little subtle hints of humor, like him making chamomile tea, and him sort of talking about how he doesn't live that same kind of life anymore. And I enjoyed that dynamic. They weren't in it much. They obviously they find out that there's another guy who's responsible, who is played by the actor from the Sarah Connor Chronicles, who played John Connor, which I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then we get a big reveal, but we'll talk about that reveal later. In terms of the Titan storyline, they're still being hunted, which is great. We don't see much of the strike internally, a few little snapshots, but we get a really good scene. So we get like a flashback where Picard and Riker are talking about Riker's son Thaddeus, who we know passed away, and he talks about being a father and how he was told to come to sickbay and he was really scared for his child's life. And it was 17 seconds, the title. And Picard doesn't really want to know his son. He goes in and has a discussion with Beverly, and they talk about it. But in that flashback sequence, they're de-aged, which I really enjoyed. I was like, you know what, this de-aging isn't bad. Did have a little of a vibe of X-Men 3, in terms of Patrick Stewart looks too smoothed out. Riker looked great. And the story had a really heartfelt moment. Then we go to Picard talking to Beverly, and it's a little bit of a like, really? We find out that they've been in a relationship on and off for like 5 times. Picard kept getting in situations that were harmful to him. And it happened a couple of times that Beverly went, I don't want my son to be at risk because he is Picard's son. Which is very similar reasoning to Kirk's son. Star Trek 2 seems to be the nostalgia they're trying to bait. But Patrick Stewart and Gates McFadden's acting was just masterful. I was sitting there and I'm going, and Picard's talking about how she took away his choice. She took away his meaning to be a father. He goes, I know I would never be like my father, but I would have learnt that 20 years ago. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, okay, they're taking Star Trek Picard's season beats and using them as an emotional strength. And I was really happy with that. I was happy with this meeting. And Picard sort of comes away from the meeting like, I don't want to know Jack. Outside in the hallway when Beverly and Picard are talking, Will's talking to Jack. And he's talking about how that's his father. And Jack doesn't really want to deal with it. And Riker's sort of just going, he's a great man. Which is funny because it comes up later in the episode.
I don't mention it in the video here, but the repercussions of Riker kicking Picard off the bridge, I thought was really good. I'm interested to see where that goes next week.
Which is funny because it comes up later in the episode. But Jack is sort of... And he talks about dealing with the fact that everyone's mad at him because they're trying to save him and he has to live with that. And now he needs to prove that it was worthwhile. Riker, I don't know how to put it. When Riker was talking about Thaddeus, he nailed those like character moments. When he's talking to Jack, he's sort of talking about being a father and stuff like that. And it was a really beautiful moment in both segments of the scene. Picard turns to Beverly and goes, it is irretrievable. He can't forgive her for this. And then he leaves and he asks Riker to go with him. He doesn't want to talk to Jack and he goes off. And Riker's sort of like, you need to talk about this. And Picard focuses on, he goes, no, we need to save the ship. We need to focus on the ship. some really great beats in here. And in terms of Captain, obviously the striker can find them and find the Titan. The Titan's leaking something. We find that out. Picard very much is on the I want to attack. Riker is on the I don't want to attack. I just want to get this crew home safe. I don't know which side I sit on. I think Riker's doing the right thing. They're clearly not gunned for this mission. And it sort of builds up a level of tension which comes to fruition at the end. So anyway, what we find out later is the ship is leaking a chemical that the strike can detect. And there's a saboteur on board. And they went a completely different direction to what I thought. And this is where we enter the territory of the changelings being revealed as one of the big bads of this episode. When they were doing it, I was a bit like, okay. And then the Dominion Wars mentioned, and then it clicked for me in my head. We see Jack sees the face change, and then we find out that criminal that Raffi and Worf have got, he literally turns into a puddle. The thing that got me was that when that happened, I've gone, so you guys are taking a Deep Space Nine villain and pitching against the Next Generation crew. What a middle finger to the Deep Space Nine people. I'm hoping this means we might see some of them. It was really. I honestly, episode 1, I was hands down a bit like, oh really? See, episode 2, I was like, oh, okay, this is good. This is better than episode 1. Okay, it's getting better. This episode, I'm watching the whole time going. I was almost in tears in the first 10 minutes of this episode. I was like, this is. Wow, the acting in this scene, the passion. It was in all the scenes. Riker talking to Picard, Picard talking to Beverly. There was such a strength of, and I suppose it comes from knowing these characters' history to sort of going Picard talks about how we weren't lovers, but he sort of implies that they could have still been friends, and he talks about how he didn't know that their affair would end. It was. I honestly, I'm so surprised how emotional I felt at that. Star Trek doesn't normally make me cry. Very rare, or not cry, but teary. Doctor Who, done it a million times. Other shows done it a million times. But Picard did it this episode, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. It took time with the scenes. It took time with the characterization. It took time with sort of fleshing out the tension of them constantly being attacked. We get to see the portal weapon in action. There's a cool scene where the ship flies through and comes out in front of the strike so they can't get away. And then the Titan fires torpedoes. The torpedoes go through the portal weapon and then basically shoot the Titan with its own weapons, which is really interesting. I certainly don't think... to be honest, it was amazing. I like the little Odo nod. We had a nod to Worf goes, I got told by someone in the Great Link that there was a small sect of changelings who didn't want to accept that they'd lost the war. So we get a little Odo reference, which is sad because Rene Auberjonois, you could have fit into this and it would have been amazing. It was just a really, really... It wasn't action-packed, but it felt like every second was used to push all the narratives. Obviously, the Raffi and Worf storyline isn't as strong, but Worf kicks ass in this. There's enough, when he lists off what he is, I'm Worf, son of Moog, I am Worf of the House of Martok, Bane of the Duras sisters. I'm sitting there and I'm going, okay, he knows who he is. He knows he can kick ass. It was a really, I can't stress enough that I'm surprised by the level of writing and the increase, and I think that, there's still a lot of nostalgia baiting. Obviously, introducing the changelings is nostalgia, but at the same time, damn, bring them back. It's one of those things where I'm going, if you want to bring back a strong enemy, the Dominion and changelings are one of them. If you want to bring back a character beats, Beverly and Picard's related, those things make sense. It's interesting. I want to see that. I don't want to see an example in this episode is Worf practicing with his weapons and they play the same opera Picard was playing in First Contact. And I'm like, there's no need for you to play the same classical music. Like that you could have picked a million other classical music. That's the thing that bugs me, is these nostalgia things that don't need to be there. I want to see new Star Trek, or new Star Trek with old characters telling a new story. Certainly with this episode, I feel like each one of our TNG characters got pushed a little further. We got to see a little bit more of Geordie's daughter, once again mentioning that she's Geordie's daughter. Her interaction with Seven, she respectfully calls her Commander Seven. Shaw is in dire straits, and I think it was like he goes, "Oh, how are they tracking us?" He's on the ball, but he's got bones sticking out of his leg, his head's damaged, and I love the way that Beverly sort of jumped into the medical role really, really quickly. She was just like, I'm just going to do this. Calm the fuck down, chief lady. Really, really good. I think the saboteur that's on the ship, it would have been much more interesting if it was one of the cast we've seen. Like, I think this was just like a random lieutenant commander or something. But yeah, this episode of Star Trek Picard, hands down, best of the season so far. We're 3 episodes in. If they can maintain this, I will literally be geekgasming by the end of it. What did you think about Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 3? 17 seconds. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment, share, and feel free to tell yourself that you did a good thing today. You did. You were a good guy. Anyways, I've been Trek Trav. Make sure to come back for more Picard reviews and more videos weekly.